What's up? Welcome back to 13 Takes, a podcast talking about video production, business, and just the growth of 13th Frame Studios. In this episode, we are going to be talking about why you would hire a video production company versus maybe a solo contractor, and for the creatives watching, why you would want to be a solo contractor versus maybe working with a team of guys. I'm Patrick Mahoney.
I'm Mike Ingalls.
And I'm Josh Chester.
And this is 13 Takes. So kind of start off the episode, I think it's best to give a breakdown of just the production process and what a company could expect from like how the process works from pre-production all the way to delivery. And so usually, at least with 13 Frame Studios, we would have a discovery call with a client, and that's kind of allows us to get to know the client on a personal level, and let them get to know us a little bit better on a personal level. And then from there, we kind of start going into general conversations about how we can help them, or if they have any problems that video production can help or solve, or marketing in general can help solve. Those are the pain points we try and look at and address. And then we from there we get together as a team and start the pre-production, or the quoting process of building out what the deliverables would look like and what the overall scope of work is with the client. And so, like, Mike, if you want, tell us about you oversee a lot of the just selling aspect, and you're the one doing the initial talk with the client. So what does that look like when you are talking with the clients?
So usually what I usually do is when I reach out to them or they reach out to us, I start the process of getting the vague scope of work to kind of give the team a rundown of what it is that they're wanting and how we should maybe go, how we should address it with each other. And then, as in, like you said, just kind of keeping tabs on the client as well. And then getting us the next steps forward to do the next process, or the next step of the process of the project.
Yeah, and the next step of that, once we kind of have the scope of work, generally goes into creating an estimate, and presenting that estimate to the client. I'll usually handle the logistics and writing up the estimate, and then that's when the team meets and we run through the deliverables. Chaz, I'll usually get with you on like how long does an edit usually take for the deliverables we're trying to do, because at the end of the day, it's pricing out not only the production itself, but it's pricing out post-production, and then it's pricing out the time to prep and plan and prepare too. And so usually the general pipeline for production is pre-production, which is the planning process. And then once the shots are planned out, the schedule is all created, the locations, talents locked, you then usually go into the production aspect. That's where the cameras come out, the lights all come out, and everyone sets up, and you're filming for the day or two, or however long the project is. Once that's in the can, then, which usually, that being in the can is just a term where production's done and we have everything. But then it goes into post-production. And Chaz, like, what does that look like? How do you plan when we're doing the estimates? How do you plan and figure timing for the different deliverables?
Yeah, so when it comes to post-production, basically I'm being given a bunch of individual clips of different things that are all going to come together to create the final video. And for some projects in the past, that has just kind of been a surprise of just like, here's what we got, figure it out, which is very different than what we do, where I'm involved from the beginning with pre-production and I kind of know what shots to expect, and can better assess what we're going to need to do and how long it's going to take. Whereas on some other projects, it's just like I'm just going through the footage and trying to figure out what I'm going to do with it for the first time. And so with posts, typically we have things organized by what day they were shot and what camera they were shot with. And then I just go through, I lay out all of the clips on a timeline, and I go through and I pull selects, which are basically the shots I'm deciding are most useful. And then I kind of trim them down and create an assembly edit, just a very like super early draft of the final edit, to kind of figure out the overall structure and pacing and tone of the video. And from that point on, it's a matter of refining the video, creating the motion graphics, doing whatever visual effects need to be done, to eventually render out, save out the final videos that are going to be delivered to the client.
Yeah, and so when it goes to different projects, right? So usually with commercials and even social, you're working within a 15-second window, a 30-second, and then your larger projects could be anywhere from 60 to 90 seconds, 2 minutes from a commercial or social standpoint. Obviously, there's differences when editing commercial stuff versus editing music videos versus editing movies and everything. But for clients, usually we're working within that like 15-second to 2-minute window. How do you go about figuring the amount of time it's going to take to edit, say, a 30-second video?
Honestly, I feel like one of the hardest parts of post-production is just knowing how long things are going to take, because it's different for every project. There can be times where you have like 7 different takes at the same thing that are all slightly different, and you have to figure out which one is the best of them for what you're doing.
Right. So like you're saying, more or less, like depending on the extensiveness of the project and how many takes were taken, because you have to, and essentially whenever you have all of those clips, you have to watch every single one of them. You got to scrub through it, basically every single clip, no matter what.
Right. Because, well, I could just like grab a shot and be like, this is good enough, let's go ahead with that. I want to find the best one or the most effective one for what we're trying to do with the commercial or whatever the project may be. And with commercials, you also have to think about, because it's such a tight, such a short duration, you want to pick shots that are going to be effective in small amounts, where like you could just see a shot for a few seconds and get the idea that the shot is trying to convey to you.
Yeah, and that's a lot of that is handled during the pre-production stages, especially with our team, where we try and every second on screen time counts, right? And so you don't want any wasted screen time, especially when you're dealing with commercials. But to kind of go back to it's hard with the editing to figure how long something can take, because not only is it looking at the different shots, but it's also, is there 3D elements in this project? Is there motion graphics? So that it's all kind of project to project basis. But over the years of working with the agency and stuff, we've been able to really refine down how, like, our process and how we can turn things around. And I think part of that is because of the teamwork that we have, and you being a part of the pre-production process. And then me, with having a background in editing as well, I can, when I'm out shooting or out directing, it's easier for me to know, like, this is going to work for the edit, or that take's not going to work for the edit. And it makes the whole streamlined process more efficient. And so,
when it comes to gauging how long post is going to take and how involved it's going to be, a lot of that just comes from experience. We've worked on a lot of different types of projects. We've found ways of making things as efficient as possible in post. And that gives us a general sense of how long something is going to take. That's enough for an estimate.
Yeah, usually we've worked on enough commercial projects and projects of all different lengths of time that we have a good sense of how long a 30 seconds should take for us, or how long a 60 seconds should take for us, or if it's a 5-minute long video. We have a fairly good understanding because of our own processes that we have in place of how to accurately quote that out.
Another big aspect of post-production is that you're going to be sending out edits for client review, and then you're going to get feedback and things that you need to change or adjust just to make sure the video is attuned to whatever the client's trying to accomplish. And a big part of that is understanding what the client is asking for and what their needs are.
When we do the discovery meeting, it helps out with the final process of the delivery, so that way there's minimal revisions to begin with of when we send the client their sample clips or their sample edits. Because when we do get to the delivery aspect of things, we send them a link, drop it off to them, they review it, and the goal is to have hit the nail on the head with what their video was requesting or their scope of work. So we have minimal revisions, and then once they give us the okay, then we finally send them a finalized downloadable file with all their edits in it, and then we deliver the package to them.
Yeah, we'll usually send them a Dropbox folder. If you want to sponsor us, Dropbox. This is not sponsored by Dropbox.
Or we drop off a drive with...
Yeah, or like we've had clients where we put everything on a hard drive and mail a hard drive out, or drop a hard drive off with them. And then, yeah, that's kind of...
that's essentially the delivery process. Obviously, it's different depending on what platforms they're posting on. The formatting of the video might be a little different. But in general, we're giving them the exact files that they need in order to post it or send it off for broadcast, or however they need to handle it during the delivery stage. And we can help people with that too if they need things explained or more information.
So why would a business want to hire a solo contractor, or why would it benefit a business to hire a team of guys like us? And at the same time, from a creator standpoint, for those that are watching that are filmmakers or getting into the video production space, the key differences of being a one-man band or a solo contractor versus like why you would want to team up with a couple guys and stuff. I know with the big reason why we decided to team up together, because we were all kind of independently a one-man band solo contractor for a long time, and then we got together because we all had the mindset of wanting to go after bigger clients and bigger budgets that would require a team of people. And to me, that's you can only go so far as an individual until you got to start getting on either your own team, or you start getting into roles a part of a team. Especially like when I was living in Atlanta freelancing and stuff, there were plenty of things that I was doing by myself, and it was working, it was paying the bills, it allowed me to have full control of the whole process. But then the larger jobs I got on, I was still a solo person, but I was being hired onto a team for to work with like Technicolor, and I was an assistant to Dailies operator. And so granted, I was still acting on my own, but that job was bringing a team of people together. And the only way the movies happen is with a team of people. And so from like,
right, like with features and documentaries and television series or streaming series, typically you're hiring people for each individual role, and they're each their own solo creator.
yeah, an individual contractor. What's an experience that you had, whether good or bad, like when you're just doing things on your own? Like, what made you want to be a part of a larger team?
So when I was freelancing just as an editor. I wasn't doing everything. And with that, you're not really involved in the other parts of the pipeline. And because of the nature of the pipeline, any problems that happen in pre-production or production get passed along to post.
We call it fix it in post.
Yeah. People say, oh, let's just fix it in post. And it's like, please fix it before post.
Fix it in pre, guys. Fix it in pre.
With anything, the more you can shoot it correctly or do what you need to do correctly will refrain from the post-production artist dealing with that.
For businesses out there, you want to save money, take the time to properly plan and find whether you're hiring an individual or hiring a team of guys to do the project for your business. One of the big things you should be looking for when talking to companies is, what is their pre-production process like? Because if they don't have a pre-production process, then you're either not going to get the project done the way you were hoping it to turn out and look, or you're going to be spending a lot of money in the long run because it's not very well organized.
I also feel like without any type of pre-production at all, you're just kind of guessing into the wind, and being the business owner, whoever hired the individual, is just not in the loop of what's going to be happening. So they're just trusting you on your word on this is what it is and this is how long it's going to take, or this is how we're going to shoot it, and there's really just no plan.
Yeah. And when I would encounter footage from a shoot that went that way, where people were just filming kind of willy-nilly or trying to get what they needed off the cuff, there'd be all of these expectations on me to, essentially turn that into something that looked like it had been planned, that looked like it had been shot correctly. And while there are things you can do in post to elevate what was shot and to make it stronger, there's no way to take something from 0 to 100. Like, there's no way to just fix something that is sort of beyond repair. And as a freelancer, I didn't know if I was getting a project like that or a project where people had done things correctly and had planned it all out. It was always kind of a gamble.
Yeah, I know. I totally understand where you're coming from with that, because especially when I was living in Atlanta working on indie features and short films and web series and music videos and stuff, the teams that did proper pre-production were great to work with, because by the time I got the footage to edit, it was easy. And it allowed me to give my full potential, show my full potential in the edit. Whereas the teams that I would work with that wouldn't necessarily have the best pre-production, and did more just run and gun style of filming, you were focusing more time and attention on just trying to make things work with what you had, and wasn't able to really showcase what you could do. And that's something to think about when you're a creator working on your own or working with a team of guys. Because even if you're working on your own, like, do the proper planning for yourself. It's only going to make things easier, because in production, the more prepared you are for something to happen, the easier it is for you to pivot when it does happen.
The more you do in pre-production, the more you're not running around with your head cut off on the day of the shoot day, or you're not sitting there trying to think. You're just executing the whole day of the shoot day. And it's not like you're sitting, you don't have to think about it. I mean, you have to think, obviously, but you don't have to have your game plan's already registered on your notes. You're ready to roll on that, instead of you just sitting here, hey, what should we shoot next? Did we get this shot? No, it's like we have a game plan, we have a system, and we run through that. And that way, with that being said, Chaz doing the post-production, he has an idea of what he's about to be delivered to, and when we give it to him in his hands, and he's not just like, oh, so I have to just make up my own idea about this whole project. And we already have a flow, we have a rhythm, a theme that's going to go down with this video project, and it's a lot more easily executed than it would be just with, let's put that shot here, let's put that here. There's no system for it, and that gets just really congested at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it doesn't do anyone justice. It doesn't help you as a creative, and it doesn't help the business that you're trying to do projects for.
The way I always explain the pipeline to people who aren't super familiar with film, just like as a metaphor, is it's kind of like pre-production is making your grocery list. Production is going to the store and picking out all the best ingredients. And then post is where you actually cook the meal, which is a very post-centric way of thinking about it, but I work in post, so that's how I think about it. You can go to the grocery store without a list, without any idea of what you're even going to make.
I've done that, and I end up with a bunch of stuff in my cart that I don't need.
Right.
And it costs you more money too.
It costs me more money.
See?
And it costs me more time at the grocery store because I'm sitting there thinking about what all this stuff I need to put in the cart.
See, and that I really like that, actually. That perspective is great, because it literally does cost you more money when you're not prepared going to the grocery store. And it translates the same way in video. When you're not prepared and you show up and you forgot a mic or whatever the case may be, it's going to take longer to shoot because you don't know what you're shooting next. It's going to take longer to set up because you don't know how to set up because you don't know what you're filming, right? And at the end of the day, it's either going to cost the client more money or it's going to cost you money, because time is money. So if you tell a client that you're doing it for X number of dollars and you figure the job should take 20 hours, but then you end up doing it in 30 because you weren't prepared for it, now you're losing out on money, and so that's why I like pre-production. Fix it in pre-production. Mike, talk to us about kind of you run Big Eye Flies, and you also are a co-owner of 13th Frame Studios. Talk about the differences because of what you're kind of experiencing right now, being kind of a solo contractor with Big Eye Flies versus when we're all working together.
Yeah, so I recently experienced a project where I went out there and I was solo because it was more or less there wasn't enough money in the budget to have multiple people. So at that point, I was also running handheld camera and operating the drone, and it was just slightly difficult to capture the ambiance of the event as a whole having different perspectives at the same exact time being a solo artist. So that's where it would have definitely helped out having another individual on your team there to capture different perspectives of the event at the same exact time, so you can go back and forth, and when your final video and it shows kind of like the event, like you're immersed into the event instead of just like back and forth of different clips.
I mean, I think a good example of how helpful it is to have multiple people with cameras shooting from different angles is the drift event we did recently, where you guys were operating drones, and also I had a camera for behind the scenes coverage. And we had
oh yeah, you're talking about the Fort Myers one. Sorry, we've done multiple drift events back-to-back weekends, so
in both cases, right?
yeah,
Just having somebody else, there are times in the edit where it made sense to cut to a handheld angle that like we wouldn't have had if it weren't.
yeah, for sure. Well, and it allows for events like that, especially when you are doing drone shots and cinematic camera rigs with gimbals, and in our case, we also utilize action cameras. It allows you to not miss a moment. That's not to say a single individual, like you were saying, Mike, where it was just you at an event, throwing the drone in the air, using the camera on a gimbal. Like a single individual can still capture an event and do just fine with it. But at the same time, having a team of guys there allows you to just focus on flying the FPV drone.
Yeah. And without, with event coverage, it's kind of like, it's not like you can have them repositioned to do something again. It's you're capturing live action or the live ambiance of the event, and it's not something you can just go back. Same thing with weddings. That if you're just one person,
if you miss it, you miss it,
and you do not want that to happen. And I've shot a wedding by myself, and I've learned for myself that that's just not the niche I'm trying to get into, because of. I mean, it's not that I can't handle pressure or stress. It's just the fact that I was only now. If that happened with us now, would I take on a wedding? I'm sure we would. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it was like with the wedding I did shoot, it was very stressful, and I was obviously still very new at what I'm doing, and it was just a lot going on, and the people at the wedding didn't really have their. I wouldn't say pre-production of the wedding, but their itinerary for the wedding all lined up. So there was nothing for me to look into. There was nothing for me to look at. It was just, this is what we're doing now.
Oh, for my gosh.
And it's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Yeah, I mean, even back when I was in St. Louis, Missouri, I was contracted with a wedding company that would hire out contractors, and unless the bride and groom paid for an additional camera person to be at the event, they would only send one camera person, and that was I will not shoot a wedding as a solo camera guy.
And again, I want to say that there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with shooting a wedding solo. There's many people that do it and are able to do it well. I'm not saying that by any means. It just was a lot.
And it's not something, it's a lot, and it's not something that you or I gravitate towards wanting to do.
Yeah, I mean, there are just limitations. If you're a one-man crew and there's an event happening all around you, like even with a 360 camera, you're not capturing everything. It's just not possible.
Yeah, and to me, since we're talking about live events versus scripted content, whether it's commercials or music videos or film, they're two completely different styles of filming. Live events, you can still plan how you are going to go shoot something. You can still do pre-production. You may not know exactly what to expect until you get there, but it's still possible to go in to an event with a mindset of, this is how I want the video to look, and these are the types of shots we need to get. And so like the drift event, you know, and when we go into those, we go in with a mindset of just that, of we do the research ahead of time of, okay, what's going on at the event. We try and go and look up in like past videos of the event, to get, especially if it's an event that we've never been to. This the latest one was up in Tampa, Florida, that we went to, and it was our first time ever being at this specific event. Not our first time shooting drift cars, but it was our first time with this event.
It was our first time shooting that type of event with that big of a production. It was a very big day, a long day. It was roughly 8 or 9 hours. It was an all-day event.
Flying for probably 5 hours.
Right. And again, like we were saying, if we weren't there as 3 people with a team, you know, me being primary drone pilot, you being the secondary, and also being the other cam op for the event coverage, and having Aaron from Evoke Creative Studios with us, he, you know, doing the photography and also B-roll videos, we wouldn't have been able to give the type of video or the quality of the video that we gave to the host of the event if we didn't have the team in place. Like most of the people that we ran into out there were doing one thing and one thing only, and they were by themselves. That's how they were contracted out there. And us, on the other hand, we were the other way around, where we had our own mini team capturing all different angles. We all had our own objectives, or we all had our objectives as a group. That's what I'm saying. And we executed that very, very fluently this whole time.
Yeah, we knew our lanes. Aaron knew his lane of, hey, go capture photos of the cars, of the crowds, of the people, you know, enjoying the time. I was, like you said, I was hybrid between running a cinematic camera, and then jumping over into also flying FPV drones. And I utilize a Lumix S1H, also flying a 3-inch Cinewhoop FPV drone. And then Mike, you were flying a 5-inch FPV drone pretty much the whole time.
Yeah, and then also very different variations of shooting with the Mavic 3 Pro.
Yeah, and it allowed us to get full coverage of this event and to showcase, you know, the video that we made. It, like you said, it wouldn't have turned out the way it did if it wasn't
executed the way we did it. It wouldn't have been that way without having the pre-production game plan that we've been discussing for several months about this event.
Like, we walked in with our objectives as a team. Mike knowing exactly what his role was at the event, Aaron knowing what his role is at the event, and me knowing my role at the event. And it's what allowed us to capture the content that we needed to capture to create the videos we created. And when it came to post-production, because there's 3 of us working together, it allowed, Chaz, for you to work on the main cinematic reel, and then Mike, you were able to work on a vertical reel, and we were able to produce twice the amount of content in the same amount of time. And from a for businesses that are trying to hire video production services, like, that's something to like consider, right? It may cost a little more to hire a team versus hiring that solo contractor, but you're also getting the ability to
speed up the process of the deliverables, because like we were saying, is that if it was just Chaz handling all that, we would have had to wait another however long for him to not utilize the same footage for the landscape video as a vertical, and then now he'd have to scrub through also more footage and see what was good and what wasn't, and you know, now it's a whole nother process to a whole nother video, a whole nother vibe of a video, and a whole different type of theme of it. But luckily we were able to knock that out in the same amount of time and get it delivered and posted and out there for socials.
Yeah. And then the other great aspect is going back to the other drift event that was here in Fort Myers. We were able to edit while we were at the event. So what, like, explain that process.
Yeah. So typically when I'm on a shoot, my job is kind of a combination of roles where I'm a production assistant and I'm shooting behind the scenes. And also I'm still an editor. So I may be ingesting dailies, just like looking at footage we've shot so far, or even editing together short videos to post on social media during an event. Like if we're trying to put out some kind of trailer or promotional video for an event, getting that done right there on the spot is going to be a lot more effective than waiting for the whole day of the event to be over and putting something together after the fact.
And that day at the drift event was nice that we were able to do that, because one of their representatives there was even pretty shocked that we called him over and said, "Hey man, look at this video." And he thought it was just going to be a cut scene from one of the drift cars that we were just doing, but it was actually a whole branded video for them to utilize, so we can get more people out to that event right then and there, so he could post it and get people to get the word out that, hey, there is an event, this is what's going on here at right this second, come show up.
Yeah, and another instance where we've managed to do same day edits for events that really like help kind of give excitement to the event at the time the event's going on is from a corporate setting. We've done recap videos where a corporation's able to show the day at the end of the day, and the people being able to see themselves on the big screen from that morning. They're like, everyone's always shocked and amazed by it. And it's always like, for me, it's always a good feeling when clients or audiences like watch a video and see themselves and are like excited about it. And, when they're laughing when they're supposed to laugh, when they're clapping when they're supposed to clap, like that's when I know we've done a solid job on a video. And it's hard to do that doing a shoot and doing a same day edit as one person. I know that because I've done it plenty of times by myself. And it's not to say that you can't do it and you can't do it good. It's just far less stressful when you're not having to worry about the edit because you have a dedicated editor on set with you. You're not having to worry about like, oh, I got to go capture this, because you have a dedicated camera guy capturing stuff.
And we have dedicated roles as to like, I don't have to worry about me in my position. I don't have to worry about the edits particularly. I don't have to worry about, oh, did we get that interview of that driver or the interview of this person at this event, or, you know what I mean? Or did I capture that with the camera? Well, I definitely didn't capture it because I've been staring at a drone controller this whole time. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm focusing on.
Yeah. And it allows you to, like, the communication we have as a team. You'll come over to me and be like, hey, is there anything you need from me at this moment? And if there's not, you usually go off and you take the drone and you go capture what you need to capture. And you know that you can go do that with ease because I'm running camera on gimbal, capturing the other shots we need, and it makes the day more efficient. And it allows, from an event coverage standpoint, it allows for more content of the event to be captured. From a commercial perspective, working with the agency, there was, when we would do automotive commercials, we would have to produce 3 to 4 commercials in a day, and we would have 3 to 4 commercials that are 3 to 4 days of shooting, and we would in essence shoot an entire, almost a quarter's worth of commercials that would usually give a client a 30-second for the month and 2 15s for the month. And Yeah, for the quarter. Yeah, each month would have its own dedicated, different creative, different commercial. But we would send a 2 to 3 man team to handle the shooting, and then from the post side, we'd have several editors at a time working on a project. And I'll let you talk about that a little bit. But from a production standpoint, there would be moments where me producing automotive commercials, there were guys that we would hire that are one-man teams, and I'd have them go out to a store, capture what we need captured, and they would do great. They're like, a lot of the times when I would be calling contractors to handle jobs that we were not able to handle due to already being booked elsewhere with the agency or whatever the case may be, or most of the time it would be we had a dealership out in Colorado or somewhere, and it doesn't make sense to fly our team out there cost-wise for the client, so we would have to hire a local crew. And talking with local crews, and coming from a production background rather than just being a agency person, I was able to talk to these crews and get exactly what the client needed. And a lot of the times the crew would push, hey, this is a 3 to 5 person team that would need to do this. You need a director, you need an audio guy, you need a lighting assistant. And not every job needs all of that. When we were running automotive commercials, you could do, depending on the role or the project, if it was a simple B-roll shoot, we need coverage shot of a store and of their inventory lot and their vehicles and associates. One person, that's a perfect job for a solo person. It helps the client because it keeps costs low. You get an individual out there that really knows what they're doing and is talented and able to deliver what you need to deliver, and everyone's happy. You don't need 3 people necessarily to go shoot something like that. But then when you have talent on screen, memorizing lines and needing to record audio and set lights and this and that, that's where having 2 to 3 people for a team made sense for those projects, because if one person went out there and would try and shoot all of that, we might get 2 commercials shot in a day, but it would take way longer to shoot all of the commercials we needed to shoot, and it would cost just as much or maybe even more money to do that. So that's a perfect example for a solo contractor versus contracting a team. And we were doing that at the agency level. And then on the post-production side, what was that like, with the team of editors and everything?
With the agency, it was typical to have one editor working on each campaign. So we would edit the 30-second video and then the 2 15-second videos. And that would all be one editor, and that would give it a very cohesive look and feel, same pacing, same color grading, same everything. And it's possible to accomplish that with a team. It just requires a lot more communication and cooperation than was realistically feasible with the agency, just because of the sheer volume of work we were trying to do every day.
And the turnaround time you had to do.
And the turnaround time. We were pumping out content left and right. But when it came to larger projects at the agency, every once in a while we would have one project that 3 different editors were working on. That was when we would try to have that communication and try to all be on the same page. And sometimes it would work and sometimes not so much, because specifically with the agency, we were all from different backgrounds and had different skill sets. And while I can show other editors how to do things, trying to do that while also working on a big project like that gets complicated. And sometimes you have to prioritize the quality of the video over educating your team, basically. The client comes first. And there isn't always time to show someone, here's the way you probably should be handling this aspect of post-production. So there were cases where I'd be working on a project with other people, and I would kind of have to go, okay, why don't I handle this? You can work on this part of the project.
Yeah, and there were a lot of the times, at least with the agency we were at, too many chefs in the kitchen kind of thing. And that's what would, from what I experience, is a lot of what would slow the process down and not make it as efficient. Where if you properly set up your post-production team, and the way we kind of, like, we took that experience and we've learned what we don't want to do with our own company, and we've catered our own company, like we've put processes in place now for our own company to streamline and make post-production with a team of editors efficient. Each one of us can edit, and each one of us has varying degrees of knowledge of our editing. Chaz, you are through and through, like, that is what you have focused and mastered kind of thing. My experience with editing is not to the standard of your experience, but I have enough experience to be able to assist you on edits, make sure that we keep the same look, pacing, and everything from edit to edit. And you don't necessarily have to hold my hand kind of thing, And then Mike's experience is different than ours with the editing, but even with his skill set, he's able to pull selects and go, guys, these are the best shots that I could find, and package. And so if you ideally, the process if done correctly, the process for an editing team to run efficiently, what would that look like? How is our company set up for our post-production process?
Yeah, I think the most important part is that we all have a clear vision going into post. We know what we're trying to accomplish. We know what the tone and feel of the video should be. Sometimes teams will have what's called a pre-post meeting where they all kind of get together, all of post gets together to go over what the deliverables should be like, just to get everyone on the same page. For us, that's not quite as necessary because we're all working on the project together from start to finish. So we already have that clear, uniform vision. And we're able to just get right into post and, hit the ground running.
Yeah, and so the other parts of the process too is there will be moments where while you're working on finishing up an edit of one project, I may start an assembly edit for the next project. That way, when it gets to you, it's kind of already pre-laid out in the vision that the team has for it. And then you're able to go in and just focus on what really matters, which is aligning the pacing, doing the transitions the way you need to do your transitions, adding any graphics, and being able, like, you're not having to necessarily go in and be like, okay, well, what shot are we using? It's already kind of, the process has already started. And to me, that's where we keep things, it's always keeping the ball moving forward. There is never a moment of like necessarily downtime, and the same with Mike, like there's been plenty of times where you've stepped in and it's like, hey, look, I'm going to go ahead and start pulling, shots.
Is there something I can do to speed up this process so that way, one, it can give him a little bit of a break, and two, it speeds things up. Like, I obviously don't have the experience over the years of how Chaz does, or even you know what I mean? But like, doing the minimal stuff of, hey, at least go through the folder of videos and see what's able to be used and what's not. I mean, I can do that for sure, obviously. And then I can do even a little bit more, like the vertical video that I took care of for the last event we were just at.
Yeah. And it turned out great, So we've talked a lot about, like, the general pipeline of production from concept to delivery. We've touched a lot on like our processes and our own experiences and why we've decided to all work as a team and how it's helped us get to the higher production valued projects that we individually were wanting to be a part of. But from a business standpoint and even a creator standpoint, what is the moments where maybe a business should hire a solo contractor or a team? And also from a creator standpoint, like, when is the moment you go from, hey, I'm just a one-man band, to, hey, I need to be a part of a team if I'm going to be on bigger projects?
Well, that's kind of like the indoor go-kart facility that we took on as one of our one of the few first projects we did as a team. It was very extensive. It was over a three day shoot period. We had the pre-production day of just us there, which involved a lot of moving parts, a lot of employees, a lot of setting our lights up and all this other thing, and getting the BTS going, and just doing other things for, modifying the track so we could be able to shoot there. And then obviously going throughout the days of having someone direct the employees where to go for the control day. And it was just, if you're just a one-man person, it's that would have turned into a week, maybe longer. You know what I mean? Because you're only by yourself. You can't having the team there, it was able to set up the lights at the next location, get the other people prepped in the next location while we're still shooting the previous location, and having everything flow seamlessly like that. And it just seems that it was a lot more fluent and efficient working that way than it was to be a solo artist or a solo contractor instead of having the team in place.
I think with the indoor go-kart facility, it would be possible for a one-man band to shoot a good video there and to get something nice out of it. But to do what we did, you really need multiple people.
Right. And it was more, and I say that more in the sense of the fact that we did a lot of choreographed, like we did a controlled day and a non-controlled day. And then we did an actual a dry run day with a soft opening of them actually having customers inside there during that, flying the drone and stuff. So that it was a lot more moving parts than just an individual going in there by himself and just being like, oh, hey, I'm by myself solo and we're going to film this.
Because, especially with the drone, if you're flying and there are people around you.
Well, and that is another thing. So being an FPV pilot, you do need to have a visual observer watch where the drones are going around. But in other words, you have to maintain visual line of sight of everything. So having that application inside that kind of environment, we needed to have another guy or multiple people there to do different roles.
Definitely jobs that would require teams, and then there's definitely jobs that can be handled by solo contractors. And ideally, like when you're hiring 13th Frame Studios, for the most part, you're hiring our team. But that doesn't mean that we don't also or can't also work as solo individuals. And there's nothing wrong if you are a solo contractor or a business that would benefit financially from hiring a solo contractor to hire solo contractors. What you want to look for, whether you are hiring an individual or hiring a team like us, is what is their process like? Do they go through a form of pre-production? Do they communicate with you on a regular basis? Do they walk you through their process on how they handle things, or do they just kind of fly by the seat of their pants, because when it comes to production and video and film and stuff, it's a collaborative industry, and that's collaboration among teams, or it's collaboration among the artist and the client. And so the biggest takeaway from all of this is you can be a solo contractor and do just fine, and there are plenty of guys who make great content and provide great services to clients. And then there's teams, and then there's reasons to bring in the teams, to hire a team like ours, where the project requires a little bit more choreography, or you need a director to be able to direct the talent while camera's operating camera. Or from a live event perspective, obviously 3 people can shoot more of the event than 1 person. 5 people captures more of the event than 3 people. So depending on the event and the event size, you may need like the drift event we were at in Tampa. I think they had 30 individual people capturing content for that event. It's a big event. To make sure you get enough content for an event like that, you need that many hands. But then for the Fort Myers event, you don't necessarily need that many hands. It's a much smaller event. Or going back to the weddings, you don't need necessarily 5 camera people for your wedding, like two camera people.
Things you do.
Yeah.
The ways they got a lot of extravagant stuff going on.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's really dependent upon obviously budgets, but then also what are you trying to accomplish, right? If you're trying to accomplish multiple setups, multiple shoots, multiple deliverables, then a team might be the better way, more efficient way to go for the money, to get the quality that you're going to want and need, than what a solo individual contractor can provide. But then at the same time, don't let a company try and tell you that you need a whole team of guys to go produce something when it may only need 1 person. Right. And so especially with us, that's why we do the discovery calls, and we have the communication we have with our clients, so we can provide them what they actually need. If the job requires all 3 of us, then we send all 3 of us. Sometimes the job only requires 1 of us, and we send the 1 person to go handle that job. So that's, if there's any, the main key takeaways of this, if you're a client or even if you're a creator, is being a solo individual versus being a team. They have their place. They have their reasons to hire one over the other. There is not a wrong choice either way. And then at the same time, it's more about like, okay, what is this person that I'm hiring, or this team that we're hiring? What is their process like? What's their communication skills like with us? Are they organized? Look for those main things. Or is it someone just trying to push a camera package on you, or are they actually going, hey, here's the problem you're having, this is how we fix the problem? Whether you need an individual for the job or you need a team for the job, really look into ask them questions, ask them what their process is, see how responsive they are to you. And that's the biggest takeaway from it for creators out there that are watching this. When you'll know that you want to move forward when you kind of plateau or you hit a point where you want the bigger jobs, because you're not going to be able to necessarily do the bigger jobs by yourself, or you just want to specialize in one thing. You want to be that drone person, that camera person. Being on a team allows you to just focus on, okay, I can go shoot and I don't have to worry about editing. So if you have any other questions about working with teams, or being a solo contractor, or if you want to share some experiences of your own working with teams, or working on a team, or working with individuals, leave them down in the comments. We'll do our best to answer any and all questions that we get. And this has been another episode of 13 Takes. I'm Patrick.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Chaz.
We'll see you next time.